Never go into a match blind. You're literally putting yourself at a disadvantage before you even start the battle. And here, I'm going to show you why. Now, what do I mean about going in blind? It means you're literally going in with your team of 3 without even looking at what your opponent has on his team of 6. You're going to war and not knowing what you're going up against. This video is going to be called Reading Teams, and that is exactly what I'm going to teach you in this episode. Not only am I going to be able to teach you how to read your opponent's team, but also how to read your team to look out for weaknesses. But J-Farm, I'm the one who made this team. I know everything about this team. Do you? Do you really? First things first, what is reading teams? It's very simple. You're reading your opponent's team and your team and trying to find specific information to be able to find the competitive edge for that battle. But before all that, you're gonna have to learn some specific combat information that is crucial to know when reading teams. Number 1, and I'm gonna quote our good friend Jimba Banks, know your typings. Know what is super effective on what Pokemon and what resists. Next, study the most important Pokemon in the meta and their charge moves. This will give you a better idea of what charge moves they're going to be using against you. Finally, learn key matchups. For example, Lantern beats Skarmory, Skarmory beats Venusaur. If you don't know how to find those kind of matchups, the best place to check is going to be on pvpoke.com. It is by far one of my favorite resources to use for Pokemon Go PvP. Simple enough? I really hope you guys are still following along because this is when it starts to get fun. We've learned it all. We are now masters of typing, matchups, and movesets. So what do we need to do next? Knowing everything we just learned, we can now read teams. We can analyze our Pokemon with our opponent's Pokemon and find out which ones have positive matchups and which ones don't. This is going to help you guys select your team of 3. You're going to be able to find out which Pokemon is going to be probably best to use as a lead, which one's going to be a safe switch, and which one's going to be your best closer. Now, you can do this in any way that you feel the most comfortable, but this is how I do it. I start with my first Pokemon and I compare it to my opponent's team to find out which Pokemon has the most positive matchups and which ones don't. From there, I usually pick the Pokemon with the best matchups as my lead because this allows me to be able to have the most safest lead going into the match. Then as my second Pokemon, I usually put him to be a bodyguard to my first Pokemon. Then for the third, I will pick up another Pokemon that has a lot of coverage or that has also a lot of positive matching. Here's an example of my team versus Big Rich's team. My team has Swampert, Medicham, Probopass, Tropius, Azumarill, and Skarmory, while his team has Azumarill, Skarmory, Venusaur, Sableye, Medicham, and Swampert. So I go down my list and I start comparing each Pokemon. So let's start off with Swampert. Swampert has decent matchups against most of the Pokemon, but only really truly has one positive matchup against Skarmory. So we're gonna put 1 on top of Skarmory. Next is gonna be Medicham. Medicham beats Skarmory in the 2 shields, but only really has a positive matchup against Swampert. So that's, again, only really 1 positive matchup. Third, we're gonna be doing Probopass. Probopass beats Skarmory and Sableye, so that's 2 positive matchups, so it's a little bit better than the other. Next is gonna be Tropius. Tropius beats Azumarill, Venusaur, Medicham, Sableye, and Swampert, which means he has 5 out of the 6 Pokemon as positive matchups. Fifth is gonna be Azumarill. Azumarill beats Skarmory, Medicham, Swampert, and Sableye, and also has some decent matchups against Venusaur with his Ice Beam, so that is gonna be 4 positive matchups. Last but not least, we have Skarmory. Skarmory walls Venusaur, just completely, utterly walls Venusaur. He also has positive matchups against Medicham and Sableye, unless they double shield. We know that Tropius has the most positive matchups, which means we are most likely going to be putting Tropius as the lead. The reason why we do this is because he has 5 positive matchups, and with 5 positive matchups, we have a 5 out of 6 chance that we're gonna go into the lead with a positive matchup. Next, Tropius's main counter is going to be Big Rich's Skarmory. So we need to have a Pokemon to be able to cover our Tropius. We have 2 choices. We have Probopass and we have Azumarill. Now I know Probopass is a harder counter on Skarmory, but Probopass loses to Azumarill, Medicham, Venusaur, and Swampert, while Azu has a lot of a better matchup against all of them. So it's clear that we should be picking Azumarill. Even though it's not as hard as a counter, it still does very well against that Skarmory, but also allows us to have more coverage against everything else on Big Rich's team. So it's clear we're gonna be picking Azumarill. And last but not least, we're gonna be needing our 3rd Pokemon. And what is the one Pokemon that is on Big Rich's team that is gonna be able to have a decent matchup against both Tropius and Azumarill? It is Venusaur. That is right. Venusaur has Sludge Bomb that's going to do a whole lot of damage to that Tropius, and also has that Frenzy Plant that will be able to just completely do some devastating damage to our Azumarill. Now, do you remember who walls Venusaur the most? It is going to be the Steel Bird that is able to just J-farm Venusaur, and Venusaur can't do anything about it. Doesn't matter if you Frenzy Plant, Sludge Bombs, it doesn't matter. Skarmory will be able to just completely J-farm Venusaur. Plus, Skarmory has some decent matchups against pretty much everything else that's not Swampert. Do you see what we just did? We just read Big Rich's team, and we were able to find the flaws, plus be able to find out our own weakness against his team. Now, this might have taken a couple minutes just because I was trying to teach you, but if you learn those 3 steps, you will be able to do this in like 2 minutes. By using this strategy, you will see yourself being more prepared before starting the battle, and as a result, win more matches. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.